Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and finish this off.
Through the teachings of Vedanta. Okay, let's take another question here. Yes, please.
So we say that consciousness is our real nature and all our thoughts are known to us. The consciousness reveals the thoughts to you, right? What does that you refer to there?
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
So the question is, consciousness reveals what's happening in your mind, reveals it to you. And then your question was, who is that you? And it's a good question. And it's a question that comes from an incorrect application of a metaphor. Let me explain. We use many metaphors.
Real quick. Yeah, when I heard that to you, I thought it would be the ego. Because without consciousness, would the ego exist without consciousness? And what I mean by reveals it to you is because without it, the ego could not know anything, right? Right? Without consciousness, there would be no ego? Maybe? That's an interesting question, actually. Can the ego exist without consciousness? But then again, everything is consciousness, so therefore, I guess that's a no. That answered that question pretty quick. So therefore, it reveals it to the ego, but the problem is that the ego is not separate from you. But there is this misunderstanding of separation. I don't know. That sounds really bad. Like it's not meant to be that way, because obviously the ego is the misinterpretation of who you are. But in reality, the ego is who you are, because nothing is separate from Brahman. Nothing is separate from consciousness. It's just that there's this separation between you and the ego, but in reality they're one and the same. Because you're already your true nature. So this ego is an illusion, like they always say. So this illusion is this illusion of separation. In reality, it's who you are. Just a misunderstanding too. Illusion. Maybe? Let me know. It doesn't sound right, but at the same time it does, because nothing is separate from consciousness. That's the only reason why it would be correct to say that you are the ego. But the problem is, when you say that, it makes it sound like there is a separation between consciousness and ego. You say, oh, you're the ego. So no, you're not the ego. You're the consciousness. This is your true self. But everything is consciousness, so therefore ego and consciousness are one and the same. Well, there is no ego, but this idea of the separation, misunderstanding, illusion, misinterpretation, it's always been you. I hope that makes sense.
In Vedanta, like the metaphor we say, consciousness is like light. Light revealing, like this light reveals my presence on the chair. In the same way, the light of consciousness reveals what's happening in your mind. Very common metaphor, and that's the basis for your question. But now, here's the problem with that metaphor. And before I point out the problem, let's recognize that every metaphor has a problem. If a metaphor were perfect, it wouldn't be a metaphor, it would be the actual thing. So all metaphors have shortcomings. Every metaphor has a shortcoming. We should use those metaphors knowing their shortcomings. So what is the shortcoming of this metaphor? Consciousness, the light of consciousness reveals all the activities of your mind. It's a very, very important and helpful metaphor. What is the limitation? That light reveals my body to you, sitting in this room. But that's not what the metaphor is meant to show. What the metaphor is meant to show is you are that light. It's not that the light is also, you are there and the light is there. No, you are that light of consciousness that reveals the activities of your mind. You know, there's a common mistake here, just to take it one more step. When someone says, a common expression, I possess consciousness. Now that seems like an innocuous statement. I'm a conscious being, I possess consciousness. There's a problem with that idea of possession. That which you possess is something you can be deprived of, right? That's our definition of possession. I have a pot, I can be deprived of the pot. I have a body, I can be deprived of the body. In deep sleep, you don't have a body. In dreams, you don't have this physical body. So you can be deprived of the body. In deep sleep, you have no mind. So to say, I have a body, fine. To say, I have a mind, correct. To say, I have consciousness is problematic because your existence in the absence of a body is conceivable. By the way, I was reading David Chalmers, and he loves they're called conceivability arguments. This is all this complex stuff. Gives you a headache. Gives me a headache anyway. So here's the point. You can conceive of yourself without a body. You can conceive of yourself without a mind. Can you conceive of yourself without consciousness? There it is.
What would be the the conceivability, or the how would it look like to see yourself without a mind? Would that just, I can't conceive of that because I do not know what that's like. I think, if I'm using the term correctly, and it's something that I actually something that I actually learned relatively recently is that I cannot exactly grasp the concept of something I am not. I can somewhat understand it, but I cannot put my mind into that which I have not experienced. I think that's the right way to phrase that. So, I don't want to give the exact example that was used, but that's close enough to it. But I can conceive myself without the body. Only, not in reality, but it's the closest thing, and I think could be the same, which would be deep sleep. Dreaming is a great one, because you're conscious, relatively speaking. Well, you are conscious, but you remember some aspect of the dream. And there are some dreams that you don't remember as well, because I think they say that you dream about 2 to 3 times a night. And if you've never dreamt in your life, then clearly either you don't remember it, or maybe you really don't have dreams, but I don't know. So the concept of, or the conceivedness of the lack of body, I can kind of picture that, because again, deep sleep, dreaming, even though in your dream you don't have, your body's an illusion there, because it's not really the body that you're moving, but the mind. Well, I guess, and the same thing with the deep sleep, I suppose. There is no mind there. Well, not deep sleep, but sleep. I think deep sleep, you generally have brain activity. I guess you technically always have brain activity, but I think deep sleep is the only time you can actually have a dream, which you can remember. But in the other sections, getting into REM sleep or deep sleep, I don't believe you're dreaming, so therefore you're never ever will ever remember the in-betweens, I suppose, going to sleep and waking up from sleep. But the deep sleep you can remember. Not all the time, of course. The dreams that you remember are, I believe, only ever occurring in REM or deep sleep. So maybe I guess it is conceivable to think of yourself without a mind. Or no, maybe it's not, actually. Because in deep sleep, you do have a mind, it's just not active and it's blank. Darkness, but you do understand the concept of blank and darkness. But because you have a mind to understand it, I think. But a rock doesn't have a mind. It has no idea what darkness is. Well, it doesn't have any idea of anything. This is getting too much. I'm sorry, but this is something that I throw out there and I comment because I kind of want to see if I can try to grasp the understanding of that. And maybe you guys can either agree or disagree. And if you disagree, then you explain to how do you explain it. You can't say, I wouldn't say even within not deep sleep portion, but when you're going to sleep or when you're asleep, but not in REM sleep, the mind is still technically there. There's just no activity, therefore it's blank, I think. Again, I'm not a mind doctor or dream doctor or brain doctor, but it is still technically there, I suppose. That might be the right way to say it. It's just that it's not active. And it's, yeah, that's all I can really say. I don't want to keep going on about it. Let me know what you guys think about that. Can we conceive the idea without a mind? I'd say no. But, I'm not 100% sure on that. Just because we always have a mind, whether it's active or not, it's always there. Kind of like the body. But we have experience. I don't know. It is a tough one. Let me know your explanation if you can explain the mind, because I'm contradicting myself in terms of the body. Because in deep sleep, the body is there, like how I say the mind is, even though you're not actively using it. That is maybe he is right after. I don't know.
You do not possess consciousness. You are that consciousness, and in this metaphor, you are that light of consciousness that reveals the activities of your mind. Does that work for you? Okay. One more question here, please.
To follow up on the consciousness, if this was so self-evident and our true nature of consciousness is what the real being is, why is it so difficult to tap into that? And we associate ourselves with our mind and our bodies. Is that kind of a manufacturing defect?
A manufacturing defect. I'd say it's kind of like indoctrination. This is my answer. I'm kind of curious as to how he would answer this, but I wonder if I get a similar answer. It's kind of like indoctrination, where you have people who have been so indoctrinated for so long and not realize the truth, even though it's right in front of their face a lot of the time. So, what is it? Obviously like hateful groups who preach that they're doing right or believe that they're right and are hateful, even though the group that they hate isn't like what they claim them to be, but they still believe it anyway because that's the way they've been told and taught. And what they see, they don't believe necessarily. Some do. Some see the light and they realize they've been wrong. Those who are enlightened. And then there are some people who still choose to believe in what they've been taught. Or even when they see something that is an opposite of what they believe, they don't see it. They are blind to it. So they continue to believe what they believe. I believe that's the case.
If you didn't hear this, so if our true nature is self-evident, then why aren't we always connected to that self-evident truth? Is it some kind of manufacturing defect? I like that. And this is the normal, this is the human situation, and that is we are all born ignorant. What to do? We're born without knowing that our true nature is Satchidananda Atma. By the way, conscious being is not the whole thing. I said conscious being is the self-evident part. You don't need Vedanta to know you are a conscious being. But to know that your consciousness is utterly unaffected by whatever happens in your body and mind, that's not self-evident. In fact, the opposite seems to be self-evident. It feels like everything that happens in our bodies and minds affects us. It feels like that, but it's wrong. Vedanta removes that ignorance of our true nature. So even though that you are a conscious being is self-evident, you identify yourself with your body and mind, and therefore become subject to suffering. If you could identify yourself if you could say, I am a conscious being, utterly independent of this body and mind, hey, that's Vedanta. But that's not self-evident, right? That you are a conscious being is self-evident, but that your consciousness is utterly independent of the body and mind is not self-evident. We are born with ignorance. We have to discover that.
So being indoctrinated, meaning that everything in life tells you you are the body, you are the mind, because everything you interact with involves the body and the mind. The consciousness is just, it's like this thing in the background just illuminating everything. But you don't realize that's who you are, your true nature. All you realize is that because of what you can control, and whenever you choose to do something, it activates. Oh, I'm doing this. This must be me. I say do this. It's doing it. Let me make sure it's in frame. Okay, it is in frame. I am thinking things, so therefore it must be me. I am what I control. I am that which I control. Because if it's not part of me, or I guess there's the part of me part, then it's not me. But the Sadhguru obviously makes the good point. Whenever he says, "Oh, are you this?" and Sadhguru was asking, "Are you this?" and people would normally ask, "Yeah, that's me." And then it says, "I cut that off. Now is this you?" It's like, no, that's my finger. How it changes from "this is me," to my finger. How that separation happens. But again, that's the reason why when you start thinking and start doing stuff, you start associating yourself with this, because if it weren't for you, this wouldn't move. So therefore it must be me. I believe.
Just take one or two more questions from our online students, and then we'll conclude. In Shankara's, this is from Vishaka. She asks, I think it's a she, asks, in Shankara's Nirvana Shatkam, what is the meaning of chit? Mano buddhyahankara chittani naham. Well, like any language, we have to, there's a lot of words used, and a lot of words that sound similar, like chit and chitta, which are completely different. By the way, just because there's a joke that grammarians like to say, that you better be careful about your understanding of words and your pronunciation, because you can make mistakes. Like sakrit means once, shakrit means feces. You don't want to confuse those words, sakrit and shakrit. Difference between sa and sha, not much difference. And in some vernacular languages, if you're Tamilian, you don't care about those differences anyway. That's why you talk about Siva. I pray to Lord Siva. Anyway. So we need, like any language, we have to be a little bit cautious, a little bit careful. Chitta means mind. In general, in some contexts, it can mean memory, but usually Every word depends on context. So in most contexts, chitta means mind. In a few contexts, it means specifically the part of your mind known as memory. As opposed to and that's the word that Shankara uses here. Mano buddhyahankara chittani naham. Na aham. I am not. The manas, mind, buddhi, intellect, ahankara, ego, chitta, nor the mind. I am chittani, or maybe here, because he's already got manas. So there may be chittani memories. We'll take it as memories here. But different from the word chit, as in sat chit ananda, chit and chitta. In fact, in our class earlier, we had that word chit. Chittaha, it comes in a genitive case. So chit means consciousness. Chaitanya, jnanam, jnapti, all these words can mean consciousness. Chit means consciousness. Okay. One more. This is from Soundarya, who lives in Italy. That's nice. Soundarya lives in Italy. I think it's a she. She asks, why did Purusha separate from Prakriti? With these why questions. Purusha, by the way, Purusha and Prakriti is a reference to the philosophy known as Sankhya, which is a parallel to Advaita Vedanta. But Advaita Vedanta adopts some of the teachings of Sankhya, so we use some of their terminology. What they call Purusha, we call consciousness. And what they call Prakriti, we call Prakriti. No problem. Prakriti means nature. Of course, we understand Prakriti a little differently than they do. And the way they understand Purusha is different from the way we understand consciousness. So it's, at a technical level, at a scholarly level, it's a little complex, but this question is not a scholarly question. Why? And I'll rephrase the question now. Why did Purusha separate from Prakriti? Why is consciousness separate from matter? This also is something that our scientist friends struggle with. Why is consciousness separate from matter? In fact, a good question these scientists ask.
I would say it would be kind of weird to say that based on my understanding of Advaita Vedanta, again, nothing is separate from consciousness. So I wonder if you'll say that. Why is there consciousness at all? Why? Look at this. You can have a powerful computer that has no self-awareness, no consciousness. Then why do we have consciousness? Our brains are like supercomputers in some ways. So if we compare our brains to supercomputers, if a supercomputer has no consciousness, no self-awareness, why do we have consciousness? And this is another problem with the question. Why is a question with regard to cause and effect. Why did this happen? Why did this turn into this? Why is this like this? Why is this not like that? It really, the moment we ask why, we are in the realm of cause and effect. Cause and effect is the realm in which we live. We live with laws of nature. One of those laws is cause and effect. In fact, the teachings of karma are an extension of the laws of cause and effect. But there are sometimes, in some situations, you can't say why. So if milk turns into curds, yogurt, you can say why. And you can investigate that. I think, what do you put some lemon juice or something in? I don't know. I've never made yogurt, but there's some way. Or you put some old yogurt. Is that right?
Yeah. See, I know this. How about that? I've never done it, but I know that much. Okay. So you can investigate. There's a cause-effect relationship, so you can investigate that cause-effect relationship. But there are some occasions, some situations in which you cannot investigate cause-effect relationship. For example, in science, we understand that the universe began with the Big Bang. If you say, why did the Big Bang, before it went bang, it was called a singularity. So if you ask, why did the singularity bang? And that's an unanswerable question, because you're asking about cause-effect relationships which only exist after the fact, after the Big Bang. Similar, a simpler example is you say, when did the singularity go bang? 2 o'clock in the morning? Wait a minute. Time didn't exist. Where was the Big Bang? Where was that singularity before it went bang?
Well, with that one, they can actually have an idea, because I think they have an idea of where it actually may have went bang, because obviously if there's a singular point, then everything expanded out from that point. But the time he does got it on. Like, I guess the explosion is when time happened.
There was no space. So these questions with regard to cause-effect relationships end up being invalid. And that's a problem we have in spiritual life as well. Some of these questions are invalid because we're talking about things that don't have a cause-effect relationship. They have no interaction whatsoever, like consciousness and matter. And this is a problem scientists are up against. There is no relationship between consciousness and matter. One cannot affect the other. Consciousness can't affect matter. Matter can't affect consciousness. Consciousness, Purusha. Matter, Prakriti. They exist in different levels of reality. And I'll finish with this final observation. Different levels of reality. What is the relationship between this pot and the pot I dreamt about last night? Do I have 2 pots? Do I possess 2 pots? I have this pot in my hand. I also have the pot I dreamt about last night. Well, the pot I dreamt about last night only had existence in that dream. In this world, it has no existence. So there's no relationship between this pot and the dream pot. We can't count 1, 2.
I think probably the better way to say that is the mind. Because you say, oh, it only exists in my dreams. No, you're thinking about it now. You're thinking about the pot in your dream right now, so it doesn't exist only in your dream. So I think perhaps the better way to phrase that, just in case anyone sees a disconnect there, which I did, but I understood what he was trying to say, is that the pot in his mind, whether it happened in a dream, because the dream's obviously in his mind, or whether he's thinking about the pot right now, it's still in the mind, versus the pot in reality.
Because they are utterly unrelated, different kinds of reality. One is part of a dream reality, the other is part of this vyavaharika, this worldly reality, this reality of cause and effect. Now, to finish this up, what is the relationship between this pot and pure consciousness? Bear in mind that consciousness, being all-pervasive, is present inside the pot. It's present in the walls of the pot. It's present in every particle of clay. So then, what is the relationship between pure consciousness and this pot? And the answer is, there's no relationship whatsoever. There are different kinds of reality, different kinds of existence. Like this pot has no relationship or similarity to the pot in a dream. Consciousness has no relationship with this pot. If you say it's in the pot, that's your perspective. From the perspective of consciousness, all pervasive. So this is the problem then. If you say, how, here's the question that's often answered.
So, relation in this term is used as a separation. There must be a separation for it to have a relation. If there's no separation, then there's no relation because it's one and the same.
Why did consciousness produce this pot? Cause, effect, relationship between two things that are utterly unrelated. Now, we'll leave it here. I understand this is a little abstract because we're talking about abstractions like consciousness and matter, but pardon the pun, but it matters. That's bad, I'm sorry. It matters because we suffer because of our confusion. And by removing that confusion, we become free from suffering. So with that, let's conclude our session. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinaha sarve santu niramayaha sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritangamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om Tat Sat. Very nice.
I was thinking about that song. Sorry, I don't. It said music down below. I didn't mean to say song, but the chant there. So no, it seems like the ending is the same. Same with Swami Sarvapriyananda. And I guess what is the difference between the chant, especially in roughly the beginning, middle part for sure. The ending is similar. The beginning seems different. I guess these are. If you happen to know, let me know in the comments. I hope that I get the email though, for sure. I'm sorry if I don't. I can't always check the comments, but I understand. I think the ending part, but I guess what makes these people choose the particular chant? I suppose, as opposed to it being a similar chant, is it a different teacher that teaches them this chant? A particular lineage of swamis or rishis? I'm sorry if I didn't say that right. I think saliva went all over my mouth when I said that. Or different schooling, schooling of Advaita Vedanta. That's one of the questions. And the next one was, it's not really a question, but more of a statement that I never thought about cause and effect with consciousness in terms of what, like you said, what created consciousness or how did it come to existence, in a similar sense as the Big Bang, where what's before the Big Bang. I know this question was asked to Neil deGrasse Tyson, which he said they don't know, and I've always thought that answer wasn't good enough. It's like, why do you not know? I mean, we're scientists here, or you're science. I am a scientist the same as you, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Not even close. Don't know who said that. But, why do we not have an answer for that? I mean, it's going to take some time, But then what he said here about how it's an invalid question because it's a cause and effect. And the way I interpreted that, and let me know if I'm wrong, or if you thought of it differently, is that in order to know the cause and effect, we have to be there to witness it, I believe. or we had to witness it, I believe. So the reason why I made that change is because obviously we can understand cause and effect without having to be there to witness it. But we do witness the cause and effect by experimentation, repeating repeating whatever it is that we saw in the lab or in the same spot to know what the cause and effect is. I don't really have an example, honestly. Oh, well, if writing with a pen, you look at a piece of paper, it's like, how did that ink get there? Click. Ah, I see, they're very similar. What causes that ink to be there is whenever you write with your pen. Stupid example, but I hope the point makes sense. Is that if we cannot see what happened prior, so imagine pens don't exist or any kind of writing utensil, and we see a piece of paper with writing on it, it's like, there's no way to experiment to see how that happened. So we don't know. Again, I haven't thought all these things through. I am literally, as I react to this, I am thinking this through as I go with it. Usually I prefer to have time, not look completely like an idiot. But, so if we can recreate the Big Bang, then we will know what the cause and effect is because we witnessed it. I wonder if that's the case. Consciousness witnessed it. But in order to know the cause and effect, we obviously have to witness it. If we can never recreate it, then we can never know what the cause and effect is. All we know is the effect, but never the cause. Yes. I hope I said that right. Anyway, that's my reaction to this. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, and sound down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.